Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, let's take a bit of a mental vacation, right? Away from the grammar drills, the verb tables,
hmm
and let's jump straight into that fantasy we all have as language learners.
Oh, yeah, the classic scenario.
Exactly. You're picturing it sitting in a bustling Parisian cafe, maybe ordering tapas in Barcelona,
Mm.
just casually chatting.
And the words just flow automatically. You're not even thinking about the rules
That's
anymore.
communication. That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
Effortless fluency.
It absolutely is. And, our sources today argue pretty compellingly that the fastest route to that dream,
Yeah.
it isn't just cramming more vocab or mastering every complex grammar point.
Okay, so what is it then?
It's something often overlooked, especially early on. It's mastering the sound system, pronunciation.
Pronunciation first.
Mm.
That feels almost like a shortcut, maybe even counterintuitive.
It can feel that way, yeah.
Yeah.
But the argument is strong. So our mission today in this deep dive is to explore this idea of sound play.
Sound play, I like that.
Right. Why focusing on pronunciation, on really training your ears and mouth early, might just be the most efficient way to upload that new language deep into your long-term memory.
And to really get why this is so urgent, we need to talk about something, frankly, a bit terrifying. A concept the sources call the broken word.
Ah, the broken word. Yes, it's insidious, really. It hits almost every learner who focuses heavily on reading, maybe neglecting listening and speaking at the start.
So describe it. What is this broken word?
It's a word you know, you've seen it written down, you learn the spelling, the definition, maybe even how it changes in sentences.
You feel confident with it on the page.
Totally confident. But then a native speaker says it out loud in a normal conversation,
Yeah.
and your brain just blanks. It doesn't make the connection. You genuinely think, what was that word? I've never heard that before, even though you know the written form perfectly.
Oh, I've definitely felt that.
Oh, that.
It's devastating. You hear it, and suddenly this huge gap opens up,
Yeah.
like this chasm between the language you read and the language people actually speak.
Exactly. And that confusion, that disconnect, it forces your brain to try and store two separate things for the same concept, a written version and a sound version.
Which is completely inefficient.
Massively inefficient. It creates this friction, this extra cognitive load that slows everything down, and it makes that word much harder to remember long term because the memory link itself is, well, it's broken, fractured.
Okay, so avoiding that broken word trap is crucial. This leads us into the hidden costs, right? The cost of relying too much on just visual learning.
Precisely. This brings us to what we might call the visual bias in language learning. Sound, it turns out, matters far more than most learners realize, especially for building robust memories and achieving that quick recall we want.
There's an anecdote in the sources that really drives this home. It's about an opera singer.
Yes, a fascinating case. This singer needed fluency in several languages for their career: German, Italian, French, Russian. So, being quite methodical, they got obsessive about learning French vocabulary.
Using flashcards, like spaced repetition software.
Exactly, an SRS system. They spent months drilling around 3,000 French words and grammar concepts, mostly visually, linking images, French definitions, all done while commuting on the subway.
Okay, so lots of input, but purely visual.
Almost entirely. And here's the crucial part. They almost never actually spoke French aloud during this period.
Right. So then comes the moment of truth. They arrive at an advanced French immersion program, ready for their entrance interview.
The teacher greets them, bonjour. The student replies, bonjour. And then,
And then what? Did they freeze?
surprisingly, no. What happened next was fascinating. The student could understand almost everything the teacher was saying.
Wow, really? After just visual study?
Mostly, yes. And they could formulate responses. They were grammatically pretty solid, maybe a bit hesitant, but understandable. They'd never really practiced speaking, but their performance was good enough.
Good enough for what?
Good enough to bump them straight into the advanced class based on that interview.
Okay, wait. So that sounds like a huge win for visual memorization then, doesn't it? Like, maybe speaking practice isn't as vital early on.
Ah, but that's the twist. The sources suggest the opposite conclusion. The student reflected on it later. Their success wasn't just visual.
How so?
While they weren't speaking out loud, they were constantly subvocalizing, mentally rehearsing the sound of the words they were learning through the SRS.
Okay, so even without making noise, their brain's auditory centers were still involved.
Exactly. The auditory cortex was being activated. By linking the spelling and the meaning to that internal mental sound, they were actually creating a unified memory trace. One unit, not two separate ones.
So that unconscious sound integration was the key to making the leap to speaking relatively smoothly.
That's the implication. That goal of automatic speech, where the rules fade and the words just come, it was accelerated because the sound was baked in from the start, even if only internally.
That makes so much sense. When you master the basic sounds, the phonetics, foreign words stop being just weird strings of letters or random noises your brain wants to ignore.
Right. They become structured patterns, recognizable combinations of sounds you already know.
And the efficiency gain must be huge. The sources use that Icelandic example.
Yor.
Yes, mjör, meaning mead.
Mm.
Looks intimidating, right?
Mhm.
MJO umlaut DUR. Seems impossible to remember at first glance.
Totally.
But if you've actually learned the Icelandic sound system, if you've practiced the individual sounds that make up that word, the M sound, the J, which is like Y, the specific U vowel, the A, sound like the in, the U, the R.
Suddenly, it's just 6 sounds you know how to make.
Exactly. It becomes no harder to remember than hearing an unfamiliar but pronounceable name in your own language, like Likira, as the source suggests. It's just a sequence of known components.
You're basically decoding it, taking something that looks like alien script and realizing, oh, it's just made of familiar building blocks.
Precisely. The foreignness dissolves once the sounds are familiar. Okay, so memory and efficiency, huge benefits.
Yeah.
But there's more, isn't there? The social side.
Oh, absolutely. We cannot underestimate this social and, frankly, the practical weight of pronunciation. How you sound dramatically impacts every single interaction.
How people perceive you, whether they want to engage.
And critically, their perception of your competence, your intelligence, even your trustworthiness sometimes, it's deep.
It sounds like it boils down to communication empathy. The sources had those contrasting cultural attitudes, right? The archetypes.
Yes, 2 very different examples to illustrate the social stakes. First, you have what's described as the phlegmatic Englishman.
Phlegmatic, meaning.
Calm, generally unbothered. The idea is that English speakers, particularly in the UK, are often quite tolerant of pronunciation variations.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. They're constantly exposed to a huge range of accents.
Yeah.
Regional British accents, American, Canadian, Australian, plus English from all over the Commonwealth and former colonies.
Right, they're used to variety.
They're conditioned to expect it. So a few mispronounced vowels or consonants from a learner often don't faze them much. They generally don't feel the need to correct minor things.
Okay, so that's one end of the spectrum. Tolerant. What's the other end?
The other end, quite dramatically, is presented as the French person, characterized in the sources by a potential nationwide intolerance.
Wow, intolerance. That sounds harsh.
It's framed strongly, yes. The idea is that if they're being polite, they might just be internally irritated or confused by poor pronunciation. But if less empathetic,
You might get the grimace.
you might get the grimace, exactly, a visible sign of confusion or even annoyance.
Is it just rudeness, according to the analysis?
Not entirely. The sources connect it more to a sense of historical and cultural pride. French was, for centuries, the dominant language of international diplomacy, culture, power.
The language of emperors and ambassadors.
Right. And the suggestion is that some native speakers find it difficult to adjust to the modern reality where their language is spoken, sometimes imperfectly by, well, one source rather bluntly puts it, low-budget tourists.
Ouch. Okay, that's a very pointed perspective. But regardless of the reason, that reaction, the grimace, the confusion, is a real social barrier.
It's immediate feedback that communication isn't flowing smoothly. And while avoiding that social awkwardness is one motivator, it gets much more serious in professional settings.
Right. Speaking what sounds like a broken language can really undermine you.
Absolutely shatter your authority, potentially. Imagine you're given a crucial presentation or negotiating a business deal. You might have all the technical expertise, all the right data.
But if your delivery is unclear, if people are constantly struggling to understand your sounds,
It subtly chips away at your credibility.
Yeah.
Consciously or unconsciously, the listener starts to equate the lack of clarity in your speech with a potential lack of clarity in your thinking.
so clear pronunciation isn't just about sounding nice or being academic. It's a practical tool for being taken seriously.
It's vital. It establishes professional authority and ensures your message actually lands.
Okay, so the stakes are high memory, efficiency, social acceptance, professional credibility. If the root problem is this disconnect caused by prioritizing reading and our brains are filtering sounds, we need to fix the input system first. We need to train the ear.
Exactly. And this is where things get really fascinating neurologically. The research shows it's not just that learners are misinterpreting sounds they hear clearly.
What is it then?
It's that often they literally cannot perceive the difference between certain sounds if those sounds don't exist as distinct categories in their native language.
So it's not mishearing, it's non-hearing.
In a sense, yes. They are, as the sources vividly put it, fighting their own brain. Your brain has built efficient filters based on your first language, and those filters block out distinctions that aren't relevant until you need them for a new language.
The classic example is the English R and L sounds for Japanese speakers, right?
Now, the quintessential example. Japanese doesn't distinguish between R and L phonemically. They have one sound category that's sort of in between.
So imagine a native Japanese speaker listening to English words inside a brain scanner.
Right. They hear a series, maybe rock, 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 coming steadily. The auditory cortex shows a consistent response.
Then the researcher sneaks in a lock.
And the brain scan shows basically nothing. No significant change in neural activity. The auditory cortex doesn't flag lock as something different from rock.
As far as the brain's automatic processing is concerned, they're the same word, homophones.
Because it groups the R and L sounds into that single intermediate category it already knows. It's efficient for Japanese, but it makes hearing the English distinction impossible without retraining.
That filtering is incredible.
Okay.
Efficient for survival in your native environment, but a huge hurdle for language learning.
A massive hurdle. So the question becomes, how do you break down that filter? How do you force the brain to acknowledge that these two sounds are different?
This is where the magic tool comes in. Minimal pairs.
Minimal pair testing. Simple concept, incredibly powerful results. These are just pairs of words where changing only one single sound, one vowel or one consonant completely changes the meaning.
Like ship and sheep in English.
Yeah.
That vowel difference is crucial.
Exactly. Or niece versus knees, that S versus Z sound at the end, tiny difference, totally different meaning.
Or that slightly dangerous German example the sources mentioned.
Well, yeah, schießen to shoot versus schießen to, well, to defecate. The vowel sound is slightly different, but getting it wrong could be socially awkward.
Understatement.
Oh.
So you drill these pairs until the difference isn't just something you intellectually know, but something your ear automatically catches.
You feel the distinction. And the sources highlight some really tough ones from other languages. Korean, for instance.
Oh yeah, the three words, pull, pull, and bull.
Great. Pull meaning grass, pull meaning horn, and bull meaning fire.
And the difference there isn't just like our VSL, is it? It's more subtle.
Much more subtle to an English ear. It involves distinctions in aspiration and glottal tension. Pull has a plain P. Pull has a tense, unaspirated P made with more tension in the throat. And bull has a voiced B.
So if your ear isn't tuned to catch that little puff of air aspiration or that tension,
You simply can't reliably tell those three words apart just by listening. Instant communication breakdown. You ask for grass, you might get fire.
yikes. Okay. But there's hope, right? The training actually works.
There's significant hope. The research on this is really encouraging. That study on Japanese adults learning the English R and L distinction.
The ones who couldn't hear the difference initially.
Exactly. They went through intensive training, specifically using minimal pairs, focusing behaviorally and monitoring neurally.
And the results.
Pretty stunning, actually. It showcases the brain's neuroplasticity, its ability to change. They started at around 50% accuracy on distinguishing R and L, basically guessing.
Coin flip odds.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But after the targeted minimal pair training,
They got better.
significantly better. Their accuracy jumped up to 70, even 80%.
Wow. That's a huge improvement. It's still not perfect native level maybe, but
But it's a massive leap. It proves you can physically rewire those brain filters. You can create new neural pathways to perceive sounds that were literally invisible, or rather inaudible, before.
in doing this dedicated sound work, focusing on minimal pairs, it must also tackle that big psychological barrier, right? The fear factor.
Oh, absolutely. You're talking about the affective filter.
Right, that concept from language acquisition theory. The idea that anxiety and self-consciousness act like a screen.
Blocking input from getting in and preventing you from producing output comfortably.
Exactly. When you're terrified of mispronouncing things, that filter goes way up.
But if you've drilled pull, pull, bull with minimal pairs, and you know you can hear and produce the difference.
Your confidence shoots up. You're less afraid of sounding silly or being misunderstood. That lowers the affective filter.
Which makes you more receptive to learning and more willing to actually speak. Precisely. So the sound training is also, in a way, anxiety reduction training. It clears a path for learning.
Okay, so the ear is starting to tune in. We're breaking down the filters.
Yeah.
Now we need to feed it, right? Integrate lots of auditory input.
Constantly and massively. The sources really emphasize listening alongside reading for building vocabulary effectively.
Which seems counterintuitive again because we learn so much vocab from reading, don't we?
Yeah.
Even in our native language.
We do. The vast majority of our native vocabulary, tens of thousands of words, comes from reading, not from conversation. But the sound is the critical anchor,
The glue that makes it stick.
the glue that makes it stick and makes it retrievable in real-time speech. So how do you get that massive, comprehensible auditory input, especially early on?
The recommendation is audiobooks plus the text.
Yes, ideally using a story you already know well. Maybe a translation of a book you loved as a kid, or the novelization of a movie you've seen a dozen times. Harry Potter is a classic choice for many learners.
Why a familiar story?
Because you're not constantly stopping, getting bogged down, trying to figure out every single unknown word or complex plot point. You know the gist.
So you can focus on the sound.
You can let the audiobook carry you along at a natural native pace. You start to internalize the rhythm, the intonation, the sound of sentences. You hear how words you think you know actually sound when they're compressed and connected in rapid speech.
And you're getting hours and hours of structured listening.
Maybe 12, 15, 18 hours for a full novel, all while having the text right there as a backup, a stabilizer. It's incredibly effective, comprehensible input.
This leads right into that warning, though, the subtitle trap.
Ah, yes, a very common mistake even among dedicated learners. Watching foreign movies or TV shows with subtitles in your native language.
My first instinct is, well, isn't that better than nothing? At least I'm hearing the language.
It's about where your brain focuses its energy. Reading is almost always easier and faster than decoding the spoken language, especially a foreign one. So when those native language subtitles are on screen, what does your brain do? It takes the path of least resistance.
It just reads the subtitles because that's easier.
Exactly. Your eyes take over. Text is static, reliable, easy to process. Your brain thinks, why struggle with these weird foreign sounds when I can get 100% comprehension instantly by reading?
And the result is, your listening skills don't improve.
They atrophy, basically. You're not engaging the auditory processing intensely enough. You're essentially reading a translation while the foreign language washes over you unheard.
So if you need subtitles,
use subtitles in the target language, L2 subtitles. That forces your brain to try and match the sounds you're hearing to the written words in the same language. That's active processing. That helps. Native language subtitles are largely passive entertainment, not active learning.
got it. Okay, so ear training. Minimal pairs, lots of listening with text, avoid the native subtitle trap. Now, what about actually making the sounds? Training the mouth.
Right. We've trained the ear to hear the distinctions. Now we need the blueprint to produce them accurately. And that blueprint is the International Phonetic Alphabet, the IPA.
The IPA. Sounds technical. Is it really necessary?
I would argue, based on the sources, that it's a linguistic superpower. Seriously. It's an alphabet where every single symbol represents exactly one sound, one symbol, one phone. No ambiguity.
Which immediately solves the crazy spelling problems in languages like English or French.
Completely eliminates it. Think about English. Listen. The spelling has a T. Do you say it? No. How do you know? Well, maybe you just learned it. But the IPA transcription is less.
No symbol for a T sound.
None whatsoever. The ambiguity disappears. Or through the tough thought, chaos in spelling, but crystal clear, distinct transcriptions in IPA.
So it tells you exactly how a word should sound, regardless of spelling.
Precisely. And crucially, it also tells you how to make those sounds. It's a technical manual for your mouth, your tongue, your lips, your vocal cords.
It provides the rules for pronunciation, even if you don't have a recording handy.
Yeah.
And you can use it to check yourself later.
Exactly. It empowers you to understand the mechanics.
But looking at an IPA chart, I mean, it's full of symbols that look really unfamiliar. Greek letters, upside-down letters. It can seem overwhelming. How is it organized? How does it help me figure out where to put my tongue?
It looks complex, but it's brilliantly logical. It's organized based on the physics of speech production. For consonants, it mainly uses two dimensions.
Okay, what do I think?
First, the place of articulation. Where in your mouth or throat is the sound made? Is it with your lips, like P, your teeth,
The
ridge behind your teeth, the roof of your mouth, the back? Okay.
place. What's the second dimension?
The manner of articulation. How is the airflow obstructed or modified? Is it stopped completely, then released? K, is there friction? Is it nasal? Is it a glide? Or did it lie?
So place and manner define consonants. What about vowels? They seem trickier.
Vowels are definitely trickier because they exist on a continuum, and it's all about very small, precise movements of the tongue. The IPA charts vowels on two main axes as well.
Which are?
Tongue height. How high or low is the main body of your tongue? High, mid, or low?
Like E is high, ah is low.
Exactly. Say E, ah. Feel your tongue dropping. That's the high to low axis.
Okay, I feel that. What's the other axis?
Tongue advancement. How far forward or back is your tongue? Front, central, or back?
How can I feel that?
Try comparing the vowel in E like meat with the vowel in oo like boot. Ignore your lips rounding for oo for a second. Just focus on the tongue.
Okay, E, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh. Feel it. For E, your tongue is pushed forward. For oo, it pulls significantly back.
Yeah, I do feel that. It's a small movement, but definite.
It's tiny, maybe half an inch max. But those subtle shifts in height and backness are what create all the different vowel sounds in every language. The IPA gives you a map to find those precise tongue positions.
So it turns vowel production from guesswork into, like, coordinates for your tongue.
Exactly. And this becomes absolutely essential when you're dealing with sounds that just don't exist in your native language, like those Spanish R sounds we talked about.
Right, the difference between caro, car, and caro,
Yeah.
expensive tier.
Yes. The IPA helps distinguish them clearly. The R in caro is an alveolar trill, symbol R. Your tongue tip has to vibrate rapidly against that ridge behind your teeth. Flap like mad, as the source says.
The classic rolled R,
Okay.
and the single R in caro.
That's the alveolar tap or flap symbol. Here, the tongue tip just taps that ridge once, very quickly.
And the source has said it sounds kind of like a quick D.
Very similar to a quick English D or the TT sound in American English, butter or ladder. It's a flap.
And they gave that trick. Try saying caro, but think caro.
Yes. That little mnemonic helps you find the physical action. If you know the tap is mechanically similar to a quick D, you can use that knowledge to practice hitting the right spot with the right speed.
So the IPA gives you the target, the mechanics. Then you can use tools like pronunciation guides or websites like forvo.com to hear native speakers.
And compare their sound to the IPA description and your own attempts. You're not just blindly mimicking, you're understanding how the sound is built.
And the IPA can handle even more complexity, right? Like tones in Thai or Vietnamese.
Absolutely. It uses diacritics, little extra marks on the symbols to show things like aspiration, that puff of air, nasalization is air going through the nose, and tones is the pitch rising or falling. All things that can completely change your word's meaning.
So it really lets you dissect the sound. Approach it like an engineer figuring out how a machine works.
It's a very powerful analytical approach, but of course, knowing how isn't enough. You need practice.
Deliberate, systematic practice, not just random attempts.
Right. And if you're already using a spaced repetition system, an SRS for vocab,
You can build pronunciation into it.
definitely. Create custom flashcards. Put a minimal pair on there, knee sneeze. Add the IPA, mine is E's versus knees. Add audio clips of a native speaker.
And maybe even record yourself trying to say them.
Yes. Record yourself. Listen back. Compare to the native speaker. That feedback loop, combined with spaced repetition for the sounds you personally find difficult, turns your SRS into a personalized pronunciation trainer.
That sounds incredibly effective.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've trained the ear, we understand the mechanics with IPA, we're practicing deliberately. Now, the final step, actually using it, speaking.
Output, which is the whole point, right? And this is where we circle back to that effective filter, the fear. We cannot let the fear of making mistakes paralyze us.
Because that anxiety is the biggest killer of fluency. People
Yeah.
just freeze up.
They do. But the sources offer some reassurance here. Firstly, the very act of speaking, just letting the words flow, often triggers a kind of chain reaction. Your mouth and brain sometimes find the right forms or sentence structures more automatically when you're not hyper-analyzing every single syllable.
You stop editing yourself constantly.
Exactly, you get into the flow. Secondly, even imperfect output is valuable, especially writing.
Why writing specifically?
When you write, you're producing language based on your own thoughts, your own intended meaning, using the vocabulary and grammar you currently possess. It's a snapshot of your internal language system.
And then you can get that corrected.
Yes. And getting corrections on your own output is incredibly powerful. You can use language exchange partners or affordable tutors through services like italki.com, send them your writing, or even recordings of your speech.
Why is correction on your own mistakes so much better than just reading a grammar rule?
Because it's directly targeting a connection you tried to make. If a tutor corrects a sentence where you were trying to describe your weekend, that correction sticks in your memory far better than an abstract rule in a book.
It's personalized, relevant.
Highly relevant. It fixes a specific weak point or misunderstanding in your brain's wiring for that language. It's arguably the best kind of input you can get for reinforcing learning and making it permanent.
Fixing your own errors creates stronger memories. Makes sense.
It really does.
Okay, this has been a really comprehensive deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, moving from the dream of fluency to the nuts and bolts of sound.
We really have. We've unpacked those two essential pillars for getting past that broken word problem and really speeding up the whole process.
First, training the ear, using things like minimal pairs to literally force our brains to hear sounds that were invisible before, getting that sound hooked into memory properly.
Right. Overcoming those neural filters. And second, training the mouth, using the IPA, the International Phonetic Alphabet, as our guide.
Understanding the mechanics, how to actually form the sounds precisely so we're not just guessing, and so the words we learn don't fall apart when we hear them or try to say them.
And building this sound foundation early, it's not just about efficiency. It's also that active communication empathy we talked about. It makes interactions smoother, more pleasant for both sides.
And it makes every bit of grammar and vocabulary you learn after that much more likely to stick, much easier to use.
Absolutely. It greases the wheels for everything else.
So as we wrap up, here's that final provocative thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over as you think about your own sound play.
We encountered two somewhat conflicting ideas in the sources today, didn't we?
We did. On one hand, there's the encouraging idea that, well-intentioned sentences full of mistakes can still build bridges between people. That trying, even imperfectly, is better than silence.
The value of just connecting right now, warts and all, that empathetic drive to communicate, it's powerful and important.
Definitely. But then there was the counterpoint, especially in those professional or high-stakes situations, that, quote, I would rather keep silent perfectly than speak imperfectly.
Because in some contexts, speaking unclearly, sounding broken, can genuinely damage your credibility, undermine your authority, as we discussed.
So here's the tension for you to consider. How do you balance that immediate human desire to connect and communicate now, even with mistakes?
With the long-term benefits of efficiency, clarity, and professional authority that come from really prioritizing clear pronunciation from the beginning.
Where do you, personally, find the sweet spot on that spectrum in your own language learning journey? It's not always an easy balance.
It's a constant negotiation, really, a dynamic tension every learner has to manage. Hopefully, this deep dive gives you some tools and perspectives to make that choice more consciously.
Indeed. That's our deep dive for today. Join us next time as we unpack another fascinating set of sources.